What's the connection between lobsters, brain chemicals, and sexual difficulties in men? Oh, and Jordan Peterson too. I can explain. And if you're a man with a sexual difficulty or two, there's probably something useful in this for you. So we know that our status, our place in the world of other people, is important to us. When we feel low down in the pecking order, things don't tend to go well for us. Life is more of a struggle. And if this sense of our own status, it's an ancient mechanism. It's wired into us. It's deep in the oldest part of the brain. And Jordan Peterson, he talked about this in his book 12 Rules for Life. And he famously used the example of lobsters. Because lobsters have been around for 350 million years. And they have this kind of internal status tracker too. Lobsters are sensitive to more dominant, higher status lobsters. And they know their own place in the hierarchy. And it impacts the quality of their lobster lives. Jordan Peterson, he got a lot of flack for comparing lobsters to humans in this respect. He's idiosyncratic in his thinking, shall we say. Peterson pointed out that higher status male lobsters, the more aggressive, the dominant ones, the ones that have their own territory, they enjoy higher levels of serotonin release. Serotonin is a brain chemical that plays a key role in lots of bodily functions and our feelings of well-being. Now, lower status lobsters, they get more down in the dumps. They retreat. They learn their lower place. They don't establish a territory. They release less serotonin into their systems. And Peterson makes the point that female mates are more attracted to higher status, higher potential males, both in lobsters and in humans. Now, there's some degree of truth to this, but it's certainly not absolute at all, especially for humans, of course. Peterson rightly points out that human status is much more advanced. Dominance still plays a role, but so does being able to get along with others, to be a positive part of society. But if you feel low status, so if the calculator deep in your brain observes the success and the strengths of others, and it ranks you down, this can impact you. You'll be more reserved. You'll have fewer opportunities. You'll be more prone to addictions and stress. You'll cling to what feels safe, even if it's not good for you. Less serotonin will flow for you. And Jordan Peterson suggests that there's a reason why the body restricts serotonin availability, because this makes us more physically and psychologically reactive to situations and events. We're on alert, especially threatening, negative situations. We become physically hyper-responsive so we can get ourselves out of trouble. It's a survival mechanism, in other words. Emotionally, we might feel aroused, excited, anxious, on edge, activated. So contrast this with individuals who feel higher status, with higher serotonin levels. They're moving around with confidence and calm, much less on edge. In this place, we plan ahead, we invest in ourselves, and we feel deserving of what we receive. And we interact more easily with others, and we can delay gratification. Now, I think we can all relate to witnessing the success of others, people around us, work colleagues getting promotions, or even complete strangers showing off their gains on Instagram or whatever. Now, maybe it motivates us, or maybe it troubles us. But either way, we can sense our status tracker running these numbers. And too much of this, too much feeling of missing out and not being enough, and yes, our self-esteem takes a hit. It puts us on edge. Peterson says that the tracker can malfunction too, because he mentions erratic habits like irregular sleeping, irregular eating, not having routines to get our needs met. Now again, we become worn down and tired and confused. Life is more of a struggle. Status, self-esteem dips, and our serotonin goes down. We might retreat more, spend more time in survival mode. Now, I'd suggest that our sense of sexual accomplishment makes our tracker malfunction too. When guys experience sexual difficulties, say erection problems or premature ejaculation, because they're the most common, guys feel like they can't satisfy their partner. So their sense of status takes a hit, often a massive hit. There's a feeling that other men do so much better. Again, they might look at male friends who seem to effortlessly enjoy all the sex, or complete strangers in porn who can just go and go. So these guys' internal tracker runs the numbers on this, and often extremely unfairly. The perceptions get all skewed. If you're wondering whether male lobsters ejaculate, and if so, how long can they go for, I don't know. And tempting as it is, I won't go there today. Guys might feel anxious in this scenario, and complex and unhelpful feedback loops set in. Desperation to perform, then followed by disappointment, feelings of failure, and this leads to feeling lower, and more desperate to fix it, more pressure, more feeling alone. And overexcitement, that's a factor too in sexual difficulties, and that's often due to an underlying feeling of sexual scarcity. Guys can feel out of their league, not really deserving of the sex they're having. They can't settle in, they can't take their time, it's too stimulating, it's a rush. And this leads to anticipation and expectation, and then another feedback loop gets established. The hypersensitivity to threat takes effect too, amplifying our fears of losing our partners, being alone and washed up and less of a man. Again, low self-esteem and dysfunction, this way lies. Jordan Peterson makes a suggestion. Attend carefully to your posture. Quit drooping and hunching around. Speak your mind. Put your desires forward as if you had a right to them, at least the same right as others. And therapy, well, it has similar objectives really. Normalise what you're experiencing. Realise that you're not so rubbish, you're not so low status. Everyone struggles. Communicate your desires. Open up to your partner. Open up to the world. Be mindful of your body language, the way you move, again, out in the world and in bed. Basically, nurture the opposite of low status retreat and shutdown mode. Now, as Jordan Peterson says, encourage the serotonin to flow plentifully through those neural pathways that are desperate for its calming influence. Because feeling low status and low in self-esteem can lead us into depression. And the most mainstream treatment for depression is SSRI medication. That's Prozac, citalopram, sertraline, fluoxetine, etc. Because that raises the serotonin levels in the brain. People who take it generally find that it balances them out emotionally. Their lows don't feel so low, and their highs don't feel so high. They're less agitated, less anxious. SSRIs might be underclocking their status tracker too, and maybe this is helpful sometimes. And interestingly, there's one effective medication for premature ejaculation. One type of pill that balances men out during sex and helps them to last longer. And it's the same SSRI medication, it's the same serotonin booster. So even if they aren't depressed, it limits their feelings of anxiety and their excitement and helps men feel more in control. Sex lasts longer, and their status tracker notices this, and it reruns the calculations. And they feel more deserving of sex. Things feel better. And even Viagra, the medication for erectile dysfunction, well, that raises serotonin levels too. All right, that's not its main effect, and that's increasing blood flow to the genitals, but it raises the feel-good neurotransmitters too. Men feel more in control, and again, more deserving of sex. So why do I make this point about premature ejaculation and erection problems? Well, yes, there are a million factors that influence our sense of status, but the way we respond to sexual difficulties is a really obvious one, and it's quite primal, I'd say, because guys often find themselves worrying about their partner's previous partners, fretting that they were better in bed, making these direct status comparisons, and then watching porn, where every guy is great at sex, even while delivering a pizza, status comparison right there. And as a therapist, I do think there's something helpful in all of this. Peterson says that our status tracker is subject to malfunctions. We struggle with sleep or nutrition or physical difficulties, and we get into a mess of low status thinking, panic, worry. We might do things that make us feel even lower, and we can't address these malfunctions until we become aware of them. Unlike lobsters, we can consciously do things to reverse the spiral, to shut down those feedback loops that keep us stuck. Our status tracker, it will always continue to monitor and calculate, of course. It's trying to look after us. We can't switch it off, but we can inform it better. We can remind ourselves that everyone else struggles in so many ways, and that doesn't make them any better or worse than us. We have the power to spread this message too, make society more compassionate. When we're feeling low, therapy, including self-therapy, helps us to address these miscalculations and these cognitive distortions. Therapy sets us up to address our problems, to get our needs met in a healthy sense of our own status, and to accept ourselves for who we are. Finally, Jordan Peterson says we can start with our body language. He advises us to stand up straight with our shoulders back and to face the world. And I'd agree with that, because it's not a call to be more dominant or more aggressive. It's just a standing up and feeling our self-worth. And therapy, even sex therapy, carries this same message. Be more mindful of your thinking. Don't let your feelings oppress you. Learn how to notice yourself. Move yourself differently in bed and in your interactions with others. Stop doing the things that make you feel worse. Get used to feeling less threatened and pressured and more relaxed, more healthily deserving. That's my thoughts on that. I hope you found it helpful.